been like the biggest growth experience in my life, and I am so thankful every day that we did this.
Hi, friends, and welcome to Lessons from Living. It's so good to be back with you. I am your host, Beth Graham. It is the power and purpose of Lessons from Living to motivate change through inspiration, all for God's glory. I usually mention this at the close of an episode, but I want to be sure to encourage you to subscribe to the show. Our publication times, I realize, have been sporadic at best. I'm happy to say that I have finally graduated from seminary. If that felt like a lifetime to you, you are not the only one. So the plan is to return to a more regular publication schedule, and subscribing allows you to know immediately when a new episode drops. And if you're not sure how to go about that process, just shoot me an email and we will get you sorted out. We have an amazing upcoming interview with Dr. Reggie Anderson I do not want you to miss. So be sure you're on the subscription list. If you are curious about fostering children or growing your family through adoption, today's episode is for you. As you'll hear, Jessica Spencer and her husband went from having one biological child to 5 children in a matter of days. A daunting challenge for anyone, but particularly challenging when you are growing your family through fostering. You'll hear about all of the ins and outs of the system and how to navigate some of the challenges with courage. Welcome, Jessica Spencer. Let's jump in. I thought that we would focus on your fostering and adoptive journey. I know there's a lot of things we could talk about with you, but I think it's important to talk about the fostering with someone who's had, it sounds like anyway, I'm speculating, but it sounds like you've had a fairly positive experience. And it seems like so many of the stories that you hear repeated are negative. And so it is my heart that positive stories are shared. So if you would just begin with what inspired you to grow your family in that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So my husband and I, we met in high school chorus, and this was, oh gosh, about 24 years ago. And even back then, we had talked about, like, in the future, it'd be cool, like, to adopt and to be able to build out our family that way. And I don't know, we got married, and then, a few years later, we ended up having our first son. And I don't know, we tried to get pregnant after that and weren't able to. And I don't know, it hit a point where our son was like, I'd really like to have siblings. It's like, I'm not really sure how to at this point. And so I have a genetic condition that I actually found out about a few years ago called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so there's it's a connective tissue disorder. And so I think that was probably part of the reason we couldn't get pregnant at the time. It's just there's all sorts of like random issues that pop up with it. So anyways, we started talking about, trying to foster. We started talking about adopting. And I don't know, started looking at some different agencies that were out there, and then like Fostering to Adopt came up. It was like, this could be a really cool opportunity. And I don't know, it was really nerve-wracking early on because you just don't know what to expect. I think that's the same with like any adoption scenario, but this one in particular, you're fostering and you don't know if there's going to be the ability to adopt. So sometimes kids that are in the system, they aren't free for adoption at the beginning, which is wonderful because you want them to achieve permanency. And if they can achieve permanency with their biological family, that's amazing. And I think that's the goal, is to be able to get them into that. But as foster parents, like, if you have a kid that you've really connected with, and you do want to adopt, like that definitely makes it challenging just from an emotional standpoint of like, what's next. And so I don't know. We went through they're called TIPS MAP classes, and it's all about trauma informed parenting and really kind of understanding like the trauma responses and how to best serve children that are in your care. And by the time we got to the end of it, we both felt a lot more comfortable about moving forward because at least even though we knew there were going to be challenges and there were going to be, hiccups along the way and stuff, I don't know. I think we felt comfortable just knowing a little bit more about what to expect, and that at the end of the day, we would hopefully be making life better for a child that was out there. So
Okay, so when you started the process, how old was your birth child, your son?
he was, I think, 8 years old when we started.
Okay. And how old was it a sibling group who came in?
Yep. So it was a sibling group, and then we have one other son as well who came in as well. So we
Okay.
have three kids who are part of a sibling group, and they actually have two other siblings as well that were not placed with us, and then our oldest is from a different family. So
Okay. And how old was the sibling group when they came?
okay, so the sibling group was 4, 5, and 9, and the 9-year old is actually exactly 1 month apart from our biological 9-year old at the time.
Okay.
And then
Wow.
our oldest is he was 14 when he joined us.
Okay. How did your son do with especially that older child? That must have been, were they buddies, or did he feel like someone was moving in on his territory?
So they definitely really connected. I mean, I think our oldest he was kind of used to being more of the only child, and so I think it was a little bit of a shock for him to all of a sudden have like four other kids in the house. That there's just like chaos and everything, quite a
No
bit. So
doubt.
lots
Yeah.
of input. So yeah, I think he definitely connected with our biological son pretty quickly. Just I think they were able to like more quietly talk about stuff and play video games and do things like that. That just kind of felt a little bit more comforting for a 14-year-old. So
You talked about the uncertainty involved in this whole process. There is, especially if you have a heart for adoption, I think, and you want to go down that path. Did you have any indication initially that parental rights might be terminated, or was it at some point later that came up?
it was later on in the process. They were with us our younger three. They were with us for I think about a year before we started going through like that process, and then there was an appeal. And they had already been in the system for I think over 2 years by the time that they got to us, and through multiple
Wow.
foster homes. And so I mean it. I think that was one thing that was just kind of shocking is like how much kids are being moved around in the system. So
Yes.
and that's I mean every single time like there's just so much disruption in their lives and so much uncertainty of like what does this look like for me, what is my future, and it's hard, and that in and of itself builds trauma outside of things they've already experienced that got them into the system in the first place. So yeah,
Right.
but
Yeah, that is hard. I know, I understand, I agree with you that I understand the system wanting them to be reunited with their family if ever that is possible. But I know we had some cases that it was kind of a similar situation where they'd already been in the system for a number of years. There was, it was pretty apparent early on that this birth mother was not going to do what she needed to do. You could just tell from her attitude. She wasn't going to do what she needed to do in order to reunite the family.
Yeah.
And yet they still just, it went on and on and on. And ultimately her rights were terminated and a family was able to adopt these children. But I'm with you. It was really staggering how much it was weighted toward the parents to the exclusion of the kids, to you just felt like, let's think about the kids here. They've already been through so much, as you say. That can be frustrating.
It's a tough balance though, because I mean, you really do want to make sure that if their biological family can get to the place where they're able to reunite. I mean, that there should be that opportunity. And
Right.
I'm thankful, extremely thankful for that. So it is hard for the kids though, because the longer that the process goes on, the more instability that they have and the less sense of permanency they have throughout that journey. So I don't know. It's I'm glad that there are those avenues for reunification. But each step of the way, the longer the process gets, it does get harder and harder for the kids. So because there's just not
Yes.
stability. So
Right. Right. So you did some kind of initial training, I'm assuming. Did you was it pathways or
yeah,
path
it's
training?
called Tip Snap, and I wish I could tell you what that stands for, but I do not know. But it's
Okay, so that was the trauma
yeah, it's
training.
trauma informed parental. I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but
Okay.
yeah,
So that was your training to initially go into the fostering journey.
it was, yes. So we
Okay.
did that,
Okay.
and then we had several interviews that we did with the agency that we went through. We did something called a home study. So a
Mhm.
home study is basically someone comes through your home and just gets a sense of is this a safe place to be at? They have usually a checklist that they're kind of going through. They do interviews with like everyone that's in the house and just kind of get a sense of, what the overall feeling is there, and how, how folks within the house, including, any children and pets and just everyone, what that environment is going to be like. Usually they'll come through and make sure, like, do you have your medications locked up? Do you have your, household chemicals locked up? Like things like that that I think a lot of times you just don't think about, but it's so important with the safety of kids that are in your care. So we even had to have
Right.
I think it was like an animal behavior exam done right before the kids came to live with us, just to make sure that like they were good and safe and all that to be around. So I think we even had like a fire safety inspector come out by the house and like make sure that we had our fire plan in place in case there was an emergency, and that we had our fire extinguisher and all of those types of things in place. So
Wow, that sounds very thorough.
yeah, it was very thorough.
I know we
I think the whole process, to get licensed, and we kind of had a dual licensing thing going on because we had
Mhm.
both the foster license as well as the adoptive parent license that we did. I mean, a lot of the pieces of it were pretty similar. But there's probably a little bit of extra paperwork that came from having both of those. Then they send off for background checks and all that. But yeah, I think it took about 6 months all together, before we were officially licensed. So
okay. And then what was it like to receive that first call?
that was where it got crazy. So we got a call. We started getting calls mm, maybe a few weeks after we got licensed. It may have even been over a month. So we live in a different county than the agency that we went through, like we're the next county over. And I think that made it a little challenging, like, because they want to find a placement that's close. Because if you can keep kids in the same school district and you can make sure that they're closer to, their biological family and everything for visits and that type of stuff, logistically, it's just a lot easier. so,
Sure.
so basically, we would get a call and they would say, "Hey, we have this child. This is a situation. Are you open to being a home for them?" And like we would say yes, and then all of a sudden we get a call back like 10 minutes later. Well, we actually found a home that's like closer, and so we did this for probably, gosh, over a month of just like back and forth. Like nothing was coming through. It is so disheartening because like we're just like we just want it to happen, and then all of a sudden we get a call on, I think it was like a Wednesday, that our our oldest, he was, I guess, in the hospital at the time, and they wanted for us to meet him and come out to do like some training just to make sure that like medically that we were prepared to help him in whatever ways he needed. And so my husband went out for that, and he went into the hospital and met him, and we thought that like he was coming home with us that day, but he ended up staying at the hospital for a few more days. And then the next day we get a call that there's the sibling group of three kids that need a placement, like emergency placement ASAP, and that they would be there tomorrow if we could take them. And like we're like, well, we really liked the kid that we had just met. Can
Sure.
we do both? And they're like, that's fine. And so within, well, okay, so when that happened, we ended up, because we had been approved for up to four kids in the house. So which immediately maxed us out. We had just gotten a minivan, thank goodness. So like we actually had like space for everybody. So that worked out well. And anyways, so we had to get the dogs like looked at and make sure that like the behavioral stuff was good for them. So like we're rushing around trying to get all this last minute stuff done and make sure that like the house looks good and like the rooms are like prepared, because you want to like make a good first impression with the kids when they come in and make them feel comfortable and everything. And so we went through all of that, and then yeah, that next day, that Friday, they got dropped off at the house, and it was a very short visit with the social worker, and then they were there. It was like, oh wow,
Wow.
okay.
I am so surprised that they, with a new person, a new family who wants to foster for the first time,
Yeah,
they were willing to
it was crazy. Yeah,
to drop off all those children. That's a lot.
it was a
That's a
lot.
lot.
And so I think a week later, our oldest son joined us as well. So within about a week's time, we went from one to five. So
Wow. And so how did those fostering situations transition into adoption then? Because you ended up obviously keeping all of them,
we
right?
did, yes.
Hmm.
So yeah, so they none of them were free to adopt when they joined our family. So our youngest three, I think their court case ended up like happening maybe a year after we started fostering them. And then there was an appeal, and then I don't know, maybe what was it? About a year and a half after we started fostering, they became eligible to adopt, and we were like, yes. So I remember we actually sat down with them, and they had expressed interest in changing their middle names, and so the one that we did veto was my daughter said she wanted her middle name to be Mermaid, and we told her no on that one. but yeah, it was, I don't know, that was just such a surreal moment. They're just, and we asked them, like, do you want to be adopted? And just really tried to talk through it. And I mean, they were pretty young at the time. So I mean, I think, what was it, like 7, 8, and gosh, I guess 11 at the time. Which I mean, kids that age, they don't like fully have context for, what this
Sure.
means. I mean, especially after, being through so many different homes and everything. Um, so I don't know that they fully understood, but I think having that conversation and just really engaging and making sure that any questions they have are answered and just, I feel like that definitely helped kind of solidify as much as we could, us as a family and kind of that next step. So, and then our oldest, we were actually granted legal guardianship of him um, into the process, and then once he turned 18, he said he wanted to be adopted. So now they're all officially adopted, which is absolutely amazing.
Wow. And how are they doing now?
They're doing good. So I mean, even today, like they've all made so much progress. But trauma, it sticks with you, and it's not
It does.
something that you just grow out of. I don't care what you've
Right.
been through. Like it's it's something that takes a long time to work through, and to a certain degree, it's always going to be in the back of your head. So I mean, there's definite moments that are challenging, and I think as they get older, they want to know more about where did I come from, who is my family, and why am I not with them anymore, and kids at school will ask questions and stuff, and sometimes not in very
Hmm.
nice ways, and I don't know, so those moments are hard, but
Hmm.
I think at the same time, there are also moments where as a family, we can all connect at a deeper level because it's something that we can work through together. So that's definitely the silver lining. So
Yeah. So do you think that's been the most challenging part of it is dealing with the trauma that they've experienced earlier?
I would say so. Yeah.
Or is there another aspect that you would say is
Definitely
pretty challenging?
definitely the trauma. I know for us, like going from 1 to 5 has been a huge learning experience. So
That's insane. I just have to say it.
I,
That's insane. I can't
yeah,
imagine.
I still have to do head counts sometimes just to make sure like everybody's in the car. And it's horrible. But
I understand.
yeah. But yeah, I think just probably the figuring out the family dynamics and everything, and somebody's always getting into something because they're kids, and I don't know. It's definitely been like the biggest learning experience that I've ever gone through, which I love to learn, so that's a good thing.
Well, good. And what would you say is the best part of the experience so far?
Oh man, I have absolutely loved our family vacations together. So we've taken the kids to, the Outer Banks, which is the beach here in North Carolina. We've gone to the mountains. We've gone down to Universal Studios and did like a week down there in Florida. So I don't know, like we've gone up to Michigan, which is where my husband's from. And 3 of our kids, like they had never been out of state before. So like all of these experiences are just so new to them. And I don't
Mhm.
know, it's been neat because it kind of gives, I think that's been really important in kind of helping define our family culture and just that common language and everything about, you remember that time when so and so did such and such. And I don't know, it just, they've been such amazing opportunities to bond as a family. And my parents have actually joined us on several of those trips as well, which has been nice just to kind of have that extended family unit and everything. So
Yeah. Well, and mentioning your parents, what was the support? Did you feel like you had support of your family and friends when you started out
We were really, really
on the journey?
fortunate with that. Yeah, so my parents actually live next door to us. And so they have been just incredibly supportive with, when um like logistically and stuff, like when the kids need to be picked up from school and stuff, if I'm in a meeting or that type of thing. It's been wonderful having them right there to like call on, and but the emotional support too, like this is a big change for all of us. And so there's
Sure.
it's nice to have an ear and just that constant connection and everything to be able to go to. And they my parents have been so supportive, and my husband's family has been incredibly supportive. So and I know that's not always the case. I think a lot of people, they do this, and the folks around them, in a lot of cases, probably from a what they feel is a positive place, or questioning it, because there are so many unknowns, and
Hmm.
it's not like the normal way to build a family, you know. So, but yeah, we have been extremely fortunate with how supportive our family has been with us.
Well, that's great. I know when we started, of course, we had six children. So I guess
Wow.
I can see why people thought it was crazy. It was probably, but we had good reasons for doing it,
Man.
and we did. We got a lot of pushback. I was surprised by people saying, "This is crazy. Why would you feel like you have to do this?" And we did it really. We wanted to do something for service for us as a family that we could all do as a unit, and it was really hard because we had this broad range of ages and abilities in our kids, and it's hard to find a ministry kind of outlet that could include all of us together. And so this allowed us to just bring it home, and and have everybody participate and sacrifice to some degree. And
Yeah.
so it's that part of it, I think, was fabulous, but we didn't really have a lot of understanding from people around us.
That's hard. Now,
So
you said you
yeah,
had six children. Were they all there at the same time?
Um, at the time, they were there at different times. I'm trying to
Okay.
think. We homeschooled.
Yeah.
So the very oldest probably were not there too long when we initially started. But I know they were there for part of it because we we have pictures of them with the little ones that we were taking care of. Yeah.
That's cool.
But they were, yeah, so they were all involved to some degree. And when thinking back on it, and they still talk about it today. I mean, it meant so much to them. They made relationships with these little people on such a special level, and it impacted what they've done in life, even, I think, to some degree. So it's been such a positive in so many ways across the board. That's not to say it's not hard though. It's there are challenges. It's not an easy thing for sure. Did you have I'm curious, did you work with do you have like a DCS, Department of Child Services? Is that who was kind of heading up everything
Yep.
in your
So
area?
so it was interesting. We had a team, right? So we had the agency that we went through, which was Children's Home Society here in North Carolina, and they were absolutely amazing. So they were kind of our almost intermediaries between Department of Social Services and us, and so they would work with us just to make sure that the kids are doing well, that we're doing well, that we have all the documentation that we need, that we're prepared for like these steps in the process. So they were so helpful and so supportive, and also let us know, when there were areas that we could improve on. They were very honest about that, which I really appreciated because, I mean, at the end of the day, those types of things, it ensured that we were giving the kids the best outcomes possible, and our family the best outcomes possible. So, and then, yeah, so we also had Department of Social Services, so DSS is what we call it here in North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a representative from there. That was a little tricky because folks in DSS are under so much pressure. Caseloads are huge. The expectations of what they're supposed to do every day is overwhelming for so many, and turnover is rampant. So,
Yes, you've hit all the areas
yeah,
that I agree with you on. Yes.
yeah. So,
Yes, yes, yes.
so the turnover, from our experience, made it challenging because we had, I think, three different people during the journey, just within one county. So we had kids from two different counties. So each one had their own DSS person contact. And so for the ones in this one county, we went through three different contacts during that. And each time you're trying to build a relationship again. You're trying to help them understand like all the past history. And I mean, it's a lot to keep up with for anyone. And
It
so,
is.
yeah. So, and every time that someone leaves, it feels like, part of that history and knowledge is lost in the process, which is tough. So, but
Yes, that's well said. Oh gosh, we've had our struggles with DCS here, and I'm so empathetic because I know their job is so difficult and they're very underpaid. I think that's why the turnover is how it is. But I'm a court appointed special advocate now, a CASA worker. I don't know if you have those in North Carolina, but we still are working with DCS, and the issues continue. Our church has really worked to develop relationships with them and trying to aid them in any way that we can. We've even talked about, is there a way that we can increase their salaries so
yeah,
that the turnover is lessened? Because like you say, you articulated so well, it's just such an issue when for one case you go through three different representatives. It's very tough. So yeah, that's definitely a challenge for here as well.
yeah. And okay, so you mentioned that it's called a CASA.
Yes.
Okay, so I think here they're called guardian ad litems. Um,
Well, that would be an attorney. I'm not an attorney. I'm a representative of the court. So they describe us as eyes and ears for the judge, because
yeah,
the judge can't go to everyone's houses and meet all the different parties of a case, and that is our job to assess the situation and report back to the judge and
yeah. That and that
give them
that
an
that's what they
idea.
do. That's what they do here. But yeah, they call them guardian ad litems, and the ones that, and they definitely don't have, like, I mean, they could have law degrees, but they don't have to. So
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. So the two that we had were absolutely amazing. And I was so thankful to have them in our journey. So thank you for what you do, because I know it's not an
Oh,
easy job, and it's you're getting pulled in a lot of directions. So
you are. You are, but it allows me to stay connected to the system and without fostering necessarily. At some point, my doctor said, this is this is causing you a lot of stress.
yeah, yeah,
So it allows me to stay in it, and I love it. My heart is just with these kids who are at risk and looking for a place to belong. So it's really important to me. Well, would you recommend the fostering experience to those who are interested, who feel called to do it?
I absolutely would. And I think the thing is just take that first step and see if it's for
Mm-hmm.
you. Because I mean, you can go through the training, you can have conversations, you can find out more information about it and don't have to commit to anything. Once
Mm-hmm.
you make the commitment, then that's a different story. But I think just, if you have any inkling of doing this, like it is so needed. And it is, I mean, this has been like the biggest, like, growth experience in my life. And I am so thankful every day that we did this. And I mean, it's a roller coaster. It is such a roller coaster some days, and you don't know what to expect. And there's times where it's just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But I don't know. It has been such a blessing to have found this and to have built our family in the way that we have. And I'm every day's a new journey, but
Yeah.
it's an awesome one. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, something I wanted to, that you mentioned that made me think we probably should address is in discerning your limitations and maybe what you're able to take on. Because I
yeah,
know there was an example, I can give you an example. There was a set of three siblings we had who were four and under, and they all had disabilities. We had four children still at home at the time, and the caseworker came to me and said, "We don't have a place for these children." And, you would just feel like, well, I have to do this.
yeah,
But it's important, I think, to really assess how how it will impact your family and your marriage and everything across the board. And it's hard. Like in your situation, that was your first assignment was four, basically.
yeah,
But do you know what I'm saying? I just think that that you can end up in a situation where perhaps it's going to be too much for you to take on.
mm,
And it's hard to say no. I mean, it's really hard to say no. I told this caseworker, I've never had seven children in my house. I don't have a clue how this is going to go,
that's a lot.
May not go well. But you just feel so compelled to, once you're in this and committed to it. What would you say about that? I know you really didn't foster beyond the four, but could you address that?
Yeah, and I think that is such a great question, and I think really knowing your limits and your boundaries and what you can commit to in an
Mm-hmm.
honest way is so important because I mean you're committing to these kids. And
Yes.
if you, and it is hard because I mean, every no that you give like just tugs on your heartstrings, and you do feel a little guilty about it. But I think knowing that you are honest and accepting what you can and can't do is the best way to serve them. At the end of the day, because if you make that commitment, you say yes, and then all of a sudden you find out, a month down the road when everybody started to attach to each other that I can't handle this. And that does happen, even with the best of intentions, it does happen. And that's okay. And I think, we have to give ourselves grace in this process because it's challenging. You don't know what's going to happen a lot of the time. But yeah, one of the weirdest things for me, like when we were kind of going through like the initial like process to get licensed, is they gave us a checklist of like all of the behaviors and everything that we felt like we could or could not handle.
Mm-hmm.
Not only behaviors, but also, different conditions and stuff like that. And
Sure.
it was so weird, like going through that. But I'm glad that we did, because I think it helped my husband and I just like know this is what we can and can't do. And being very clear on that is extremely important. So yes,
Right.
great question. So
Yeah. Well, that's well said. That was a good answer and very helpful, I think. Did you feel overall with the training, the tips training and all of that that you were prepared and going in?
I definitely felt much better prepared. I don't know that you can
Hmm.
ever be 100% prepared for this,
Right.
because there are things that are going to happen that are just so out of left field that you just like, it's so unexpected. Nobody could ever prepare you for that. So,
Right.
yeah, but yeah, it definitely helped us understand the process. I think build greater empathy too with what the kids are going through, because there was one
Hmm.
exercise that they had us do during training where they gave us sticky notes. They said write down 5 things, one on each sticky note, that is the most important to you in your life. Um, and then they made us give up one at a time. Like, it might be our dog, our family dog, or it might be you know, um, our family itself or our house, or and every single one they let us keep one, but the kids, they don't get to keep any when they're moved,
Hmm.
and just thinking about the individual, you know things in their lives that have so much meaning to them that are just in the blink of an eye just gone. And it's I don't know. I think that one was. I mean, it seems obvious now that yeah, that's what happens, but that exercise was just so eye opening, and just I don't know, it stuck with me. So
Mm. That is powerful. That's funny you say that. I was recently at the DCS office and we were going through their storage closets to organize they have these bags of all of the kids' belongings. And I guess I don't know if they're just not allowed to take everything that they have. Like it looked like they would empty a kid's room into these bags, and I guess they're able to take some of it with them, but not everything. And you're just sitting there looking at this bag full of belongings and thinking this is their whole little world here that they've had to walk away from. It's really disconcerting. So that's a powerful exercise they had you do. I love that.
it is, and what's just heartbreaking is like I don't think any of trying to remember if any of our kids came to us with trash bags. I think they had little suitcases, fortunately, but you do hear about some kids. All of their belongings are just in a giant trash bag, and like, what does that
Right.
tell them? Like, the only things that I have in my life are trash. Like, that's horrible. and
Yes.
I know, like, we're making do with the resources that we have. And so I don't put any fault on like DSS or anything like that for it, because we're making do with the resources that are available. But I think there is actually a program out there that does suitcases for kids that are in the system, which that things like that just they're little things, but they make such a huge difference. So
Right. Gives them some dignity.
yeah,
I agree. We're doing better with things like that here as well.
that's good.
We did with our last case. We lived out in the country and we would take our garbage ourselves. And so we had our garbage sitting at the front door ready to go. And one of the little girls came running down the stairs and just stopped cold and saw a garbage bag sitting there and said, am I leaving?
Oh,
And it just broke my heart because
yeah.
that's how they were transported.
Yeah.
And she had been to so many different houses, and but that was the consistent thing, is that when you see a garbage bag, you know that being moved to the next house.
It's so sad. Yeah.
It is sad. Yeah. I know you are working to provide resources to empower people in hard to navigate areas like fostering and adoptive. I think that's so cool because you're taking what you know and your experience and sharing it with other people. Explain what kinds of resources you're trying to offer.
Thank you. Yeah, so I actually do have a free like resource kit for foster and adoptive families.
Hmm.
I can send that over to you for the show notes if you like.
Oh, that would be great.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then you have I was reading an AI program available for teachers. Is that right?
I do. I've been studying artificial intelligence for, gosh, the past like 6 or 7 years now. And it's fascinating, just like the way that it's exploded recently, like over the past year, has been, I think, really cool for a lot of folks, but also intimidating and like, oh my gosh, what happens next? But I think for teachers in particular, my husband, he's a sixth grade teacher. And when ChatGPT came out, we were kind of looking through different use cases and, how could this impact different areas? And so I put together a training of a lot of like really short like video modules of how to do different things like lesson planning and differentiation and creating mock trials and drafting like parent teacher communications and things like that. So it's almost like a personal assistant to a teacher, which is kind of cool. So I've had about 1,800 folks from all around the world sign up for that, which was really exciting. So that was the first
That's
course that I
amazing.
did. Thank you. So
That is so neat. That it seems like that'd be a great opportunity for teachers, AI in general. It just seems like it would help them in so many different ways.
yeah, and it's a hard one in education right now because I mean kids are using this stuff too, and I'm glad that they are because this is going to be in their lives, and so I think the more that they can learn to leverage tools like this in an ethical and positive manner is going to be good. But I mean, it's a tool. It's a tool at the end of the day, and so it can be used for good or for bad. so
Hmm.
but yeah, so I don't know. I think that's one area that I'm wanting to build out a little bit more is, how are students using it and what are some ways that teachers can, you know, plan around that to ensure that, the way that their lessons are laid out and the assignments that they're using, that they're more conducive to the environment that we're in now with AI. So
That's great. We usually ask if I remember thinking about your life and what you've been through. What is the most significant lesson from living that you have hit on thus far?
oh man, that's a big question. Holy cow.
I know. I'm
Um
going to test your improv skills here.
Okay, the biggest lesson that I have learned is I think there's always opportunity to grow.
Mm,
We are not static. We Where we are today is not where we're going to be in the future. And I think recognizing that, um, we are driving that car that we're in, that navigates through life. We're the driver, and we get to decide where it goes, and we can grow to get to where we want to be. And I know, like with fostering and the adoptive process and everything, that growth mindset was so important, and being open to change and being open to taking feedback and Because I mean, there were some tough situations that that happened along the way, and I think if we had been closed off, where you know we're not going to do anything differently, the outcome may not have been the same. But I think anywhere in life, like just knowing that you can grow and that you're not stuck, I think that's been really helpful for me.
Well, that's excellent. On the fly, you did great.
Yay!
Yeah. Well, let us know where we can find you. Where's the best place to find you, Jess?
Yeah. So probably right now I've been doing a lot around artificial intelligence. So I do
Hmm.
have a website. It's aiexplorers.io. And so I have
Okay.
like the Chat GPT for Teachers stuff out there. So I'm also going to be starting a podcast soon that'll be coming out before too long, all about AI. so so be on the lookout for that. But
That's great. And you'll tell about that on there as well, right? So we'll know when it will be available.
exactly, yes.
Okay. And then your other resources, is it at Penguin Collective? Is that correct?
Yep, it's penguinconnective.com. So
Connective.
I'll
Okay.
send you all the links though. so
Okay, great. We'll put them in the show notes.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I think you have inspired a lot of people, and hopefully some children will find homes because of you. So we really appreciate your input and your
Thank,
sharing.
thank you so much, Beth. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing your story with us. Hopefully, you've managed to pique someone's curiosity out there who might be able to provide a home to a child who needs one. And as always, friends, thank you for living inspiring lives. You inspire me every day. And thanks for listening. Go out and make it a great day.